Greetings, my name is Charles McCall, and I'm going to introduce to you a course that I'm making available to you. It's called Leadership 101. But that Leadership 101 is what I call one component in a pathway to leadership. Leadership 101, the 12 lessons, or the 12-week course, the 12 sessions, however you want to use it, is one part of creating a leadership culture in your church, in your school, in your organization, and in your business. And so if we want the influence of these four entities to last and have impact, and I believe that you do in this generation and in the next generation, then it's important for us to not just be a splash in the pond, but it's important for us to have a strategy on creating a leadership culture in your church, school, organization, or your business. Yes, even your business. And it's my experience, there are very few organizations, businesses, that have a clear, systematic, thought-through, planned leadership pathway, especially not even a leadership culture. And so what I'm going to be sharing with you, Leadership 101, is one component of that. But what I'm trying to share with you in this free video that I'm offering to you is on how to create not just a leadership pathway, but a leadership culture. And I'm going to be I'm going to be using church terms. I've created this originally for local churches, but as I said, even though I'm using church terms and church examples, this will work if you're a business person, if you're the director of a school, or if you're the director of an organization. And so every church, school, business, organization must have a clear leadership pathway to raise up leaders for the next generation. This is the key. At the church and the organization that I've been a part of for many, many years, and that I've been leading and senior leadership, having influence in that, we have a plethora of leaders. That we have leaders at all different levels, leaders at all different capacities, leaders that can do different things. And the reason why is because from the beginning, many, many years ago, that we began establishing a leadership culture in our church and in our organization. And so now we can move people around. We can have one person quit or move on, and we'll have another person that will come up, and they will have the basics of knowing how to lead. And also, we're creating leaders for the next generation, because we want our organization to have impact not only in this generation, but in the next generation. And so what is a leadership pathway? Leadership pathway is a conscious, intentional, systematic strategy to look for and provide formal and informal training for current and future leaders associated with your church or your organization. Let's look at those words, because I'm a person where I choose my words carefully. A leadership pathway, which is part of a leadership culture, is conscious, intentional, and systematic. Conscious means that we're purposely doing this, we're intentionally doing this, and it's systematic. 1, 2, 3, 4 leads us to where we want to go. And it's a strategy. It's not haphazard. It's not hodgepodge, but it's a strategy. We know where we're going, and we have a pretty good idea on what it takes to get there. And we look for. I tell people that my mind, my heart is like a leadership radar. Whenever I'm in a group, I spoke to a group of young people in an internship, spoke to a group of pastors in another country, and my brain and my heart is like a leadership radar. Beep, 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 beep. I am always looking for potential leaders. And then I try to provide for them formal and informal training. Formal, I've got seminars, I've got books, I've got articles, I've got lessons. I can sit down and teach them formally like this, but also informally. I'll meet with them for coffee. Just this morning, I was at a staff meeting, and I'm sitting next to one of our leaders, and every now and then I'd lean over to him, and I would make a point. I would use a teachable moment. Do you hear what he just said? This is how we can apply that. That's informal training. And I'm doing this to current leaders, this guy that I just spoke to, he was a current leader, and I do it for future leaders. Young people or people that I see that are out there that I think I might be able to bring them in. They may be from my organization or another organization, but it is looking for and providing formal and informal training to current leaders and to future leaders. Everything starts with the end in mind. Everything starts, what do you see and what do you want? If you're not able to answer that question 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now, what do you want and what do you see for your organization, for your church, for your business, and for your school? If you're not able to answer that, that's a problem. It's going to be really difficult to get donors on board with you. It's going to be really difficult to get long-term staff and helpers and volunteers on board with you if you do not have a clear vision. And so, again, this was many, many years ago. You know, many years ago, I took a time management course from Charles Hobbs Company. And so I'm looking at, how to manage my time and practical things like that. To my amazement, they started with this question: what do you see at the end of your life? What do you want to be, your family, your finances, your reputation? I thought, I want a time management course. I want to learn how not to forget my appointments. But his point was, everything starts with the end in mind, and then you work backwards. What must I do today with my time? What must I prioritize today with my time to get me to where I want to go next year, or 5 years from now, or 10 or 20 years from now? And so everything that we do in the church, in the business, in the school, in the organization should move people to the destination that we want. Let me say this again. Everything that we do, if you're a business, your service, your training, your quality, if you're a school, your education, your teaching, your grading, your recreation, if you're an organization, if you're a church, everything, our sermons, our classes, our programs, everything should be leading us to our destination. We need to ruthlessly examine everything that we're doing. Does this lead me to the destination that I feel that I want to lead this organization, church, school, or business? If not, cut it. Get rid of it. And so when it comes to a church, we need to examine our worship. Does our worship lead us to our destination that we have for people? Does our preaching, do our Bible classes, our children's ministry, our youth, men, women, everything we do, is it strategically planned to lead people along a pathway, or is it haphazard? Is it haphazard? Whatever they want to teach, whatever we want to teach. Man, I'm sorry, but my spirit cringes at haphazard, because we have one life, and we have a certain amount of time in this life, and we don't know how much time that is to do what we need to do. And so it's very important for us to see where we want to go, at least have a general idea of where we want to go, and then we begin building the systems and the processes and the people to get us where we feel that we need to be going. Upper level leaders must be working on their job, not just working at their job. Several years ago, I read a book called The E-Myth Revisited by Michael E. Gerber. Changed my perspective. So I began to understand, I already understood the difference between a manager and a leader, but this brought to light there's the worker, there's the manager, and there's the leader. And just because a person can play guitar doesn't mean they can lead a worship team at all. And so upper level leaders must be careful about getting too involved in the operations, too involved in the stuff, and rather than working at their job, they should be working on their job. What can I do to train the next level of leaders? What can I do to move us forward? So it's a different way of thinking. I really recommend that you get that book, The E-Myth Revisited. Leaders at all levels must have a mindset toward raising up the next generation, the next level of leaders, by formal and informal training, teaching them everything you know and everything that you know how to do. Upper level leaders, you must be thinking in terms of what can I do to bring up the next level of leaders. We're talking about a leadership culture. It's not just doing the work yourself, but it's what can you do to bring somebody else along so that possibly you can work yourself out of job, be moved into a different role, be moved up, or whatever the case may be, but at the least, you have somebody beside you that can do what you need to do, what you can do as well. And so this must be a corporate value of the church, the organization, the school, the business. It must be a corporate value and a corporate mindset and practiced at all levels. I'm talking about massive change. I'm talking about a way of thinking from the newcomer who comes into your business, school, organization, or church, your visitor, takes your first class, goes through your first training, and it begins to permeate their mind. I am here to take what I know and what I can do and to pass it on to someone else. And so it's a way of thinking from one generation to the next generation. And I will tell you, you might be able to get this in place for this generation, but if you're not focused on it, it will disappear in the next generation, and it won't exist at all in the generation after that. And so it's something that you really have to focus on. It has to be a corporate value and a culture. This is the first key to creating a leadership pipeline and a leadership culture. We say leadership pipeline, leadership pathway is part of a leadership culture. It's not just classes. And so I'm offering you 12 classes that will really help you. But that's only one part of a leadership culture. You have to do the rest by incorporation, by induction of newcomers, new staff, new volunteers, and a new way of thinking for them. In the Bible, 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 2, the Apostle Paul, as he's nearing the end of his life, he says to his son in the faith, Timothy, "That which you have heard from me in front of many witnesses, look for men and women who are faithful and have some ability, and pass it on to them, and they will pass it on to others and to others." And so there's 3 or 4 generations there. So Paul said, don't let it die with me, Timothy. But what you've seen, what you've heard, look for others and train them the same way that I've trained you, and have them train others and others from one generation to another generation. And your organization, school, business, and church will have long-lasting generational influence. And I think that's what you want. Leadership culture is that we are a church or a business, school, or organization that develops leaders. That's the reputation that you want. We are an organization that develops leaders. Yes, we're a church. Yes, we sell hamburgers or we sell coffee. Or yes, we're a school and we do education. Or we're an organization and we dig wells and we help the poor. But we develop, you come to work with us and we're going to develop your capacity as a leader. And you may and probably will eventually move on to a different job, but you're going to take with you a higher level of skills if you come and work with us. That will influence different spheres of society. This is huge because you can imagine the kind of people, when your church, organization, school, or business starts getting that reputation, people are going to want to come and volunteer with you. They want to come and work with you. They're going to be faithful. They're going to sacrifice because you're developing their capacity. And if and when they leave, it's no big problem because you've trained them to train somebody else to do their job. Man, it's wonderful. It's exciting as far as I'm concerned. So we sow this seed into the minds and the hearts of our staff, our volunteers, our church members, our guests, and that they are born to make a difference in their family, in their neighborhood, in their place of work, study, city, state, nation. So I'm talking actually even broader than your school, your church, your organization, or business. I'm talking about training leaders that will influence society, will influence their family, influence their neighborhood for the positive influence in their society, positive influence in their city and in their nation. And so we sow this seed into their minds in the induction to your new staff, induction for your new volunteers, induction that you have for your newcomers in your church. And then we teach for it, we organize for it, and we move people through the process. We teach it, then we organize our whole system. We create systems that are leading us to our destination, and then that leads the people through the strategic process. Now, there are 5 levels of leaders, and I'm just going to touch on this because there's a full lesson that I'll do on this. The lowest level of leader is a person who has some ability. Actually, he's probably not even a leader yet, but we'll put it in there as the base level. A person who is a member of a group, member of a team, and he has some ability. The second level is a group leader, somebody who oversees a small group of people. That may be a group of door greeters, it may be a group of cooks, it may be a classroom, but that's the next level. He's at that level. He's risen up from just being a member of a group to now he's a leader. He or she is a leader of a group. And then they become a manager. A manager oversees multiple groups. Manager oversees the entire kitchen or oversees the entire welcoming process or the entire well digging process, and so it oversees multiple groups. An effective leader oversees an entire department. And so you gain more and more influence, more and more experience, and more responsibilities the higher level you go up. And so that's the effective leader, oversees a whole department. And then the senior leader or the executive leader, he oversees everything, and he's not only looking at this generation, he or she is looking at the next generation. There are 7 spheres in society, and we believe that we want to be, that we're created to be an influence in at least one of those spheres during the course of our lifetime. Some of us work for church and the religion sphere. Some work for family and social relationship sphere. Some work for the business sphere. Some work in the government sphere. Some work in the education sphere, the arts and entertainment, or media and broadcasting. This has to do with where our work is stationed. So whatever sphere of society we're in, we can be a positive influence. We can be a blessing to others and help develop their capacity and help develop that whole sphere into being something that maybe it's weak at one point, but it grows, it becomes prosperous and has greater influence in society, positive influence. And so to create a leadership pathway, number one, this is my recommendation, this is my hope, this is my experience. Every ministry, every job has one person who is responsible for it with at least 1 or 2 helpers. Don't do anything by yourself. Don't put anybody in a role to do it by themselves. That's suicide. Because when they're sick, when they're gone, you don't have anybody to take their place. And so every role should have at least one person. It's called cross-training. Have one person that can do it and one person that has experience in it. So if we miss one person, if they quit, if they're sick, if they're gone for some reason, no problem. We have somebody else who can come up. Maybe they can't do it quite as good yet, but they can do some. So this is intentional cross-training. The team leader trains his helpers to know everything he or she knows and everything that he or she knows how to do. And so this is the mindset of a leadership culture, that whoever is the head cook, he's got 2 more people that he's training how to be a head cook. And so it's intentional. It's formal training and informal training. And the helpers have opportunity to lead at their level. I'm the head cook, and you know what? I'm going to let you flip the burgers. I'm going to let you make the fries. I'm going to let you do something else, and I'm going to watch you do it. Or if it's door greeting, or if it's running an operation in the field. And so we have the head person, the senior person, the expert in that area, but they've got at least a couple others that they're mentoring, and they're giving them opportunities to try doing that under their supervision from time to time. The other key thing is to have leadership team meetings. There must be every effective organization, church, school, or business, they have team meetings. And those team meetings should have an agenda. I have been in so many meetings. It's like, why are we here? Why are you wasting my time? So every meeting has a purpose and an agenda. This is what we're going to do, and this is the time that is allotted to it. And every meeting has at least these 4 parts. The first is the inspirational moment. It may be a quote, it may be a prayer, it may be a song, it may be a poem, it may be a chant. It's something that is inspirational that will build up the spirits of your team. And then there's sharing information back and forth. Again, we're talking about creating a leadership culture. And so the teams that we create and the various parts of our organization and the different levels of leaders that we're training, they must have team meetings. They must have leadership meetings or team meetings, and there should be an inspirational moment there. There should be sharing back and forth of information. And for me, I like to listen to them first. How are you guys doing? What kind of problems do you face? What kind of answers do you need? I let them share with me. And again, there's another whole lesson on this, and I don't have time to deal with it right now, but I listen to them, I take notes. we usually don't discuss it much because in that particular meeting, there's a different kind of a meeting that is to discuss and solve problems. And then they share information with me. I make note of that. I'll either meet with them personally or we'll follow up in maybe a longer meeting, a 2-hour, half a day or full day meeting where we take 2 or 3 topics and we tackle those 2 or 3 topics that came up. And then I share with them. I share with them information that they need coming from the top down. So you have information from the bottom up, information from the top down, and then there is a vision reminder. I'm going to take one point of our core values, and I just want us to remember that. I'm going to read it. I want us to read it together, and just remember that when it comes to making hamburgers, when it comes to educating children, this is one of our core values. When it comes to welcoming visitors, when it comes to cell groups, this is one part of our core value. Just take 5 minutes. And then you do a short capacity development, 10 or 15 minutes. I'm going to teach you a short lesson that was going to help you. It's going to build your capacity. It's going to raise you up to a new level. So these are an example of team meetings that are essential if we're creating a leadership culture. And then we can also add seminars. We can add classes to our calendar. We can have speakers come in and share with us. We can do retreats. We can do a night Bible school or night training. And we have then specific training for children, youth, if we're a church, children, youth, or specific roles, specific groups in our organization, business, or school, primary school teachers, secondary school teachers, high school teachers, and so we have specific training for them. And this goes on from one year to the next year. It's something that we intentionally put into our calendar. We plan. You either do it yourself or you bring somebody in to do it for you, and this happens from one generation to another generation. And if you're a church, we hope that you have step-by-step discipleship classes. And even if you're an organization, school, or business, you should have step-by-step training on a monthly basis. Take an evening or take a morning and spend time and do some systematic training on step 1, 2, 3, 4 to rise to the next level of leadership and to be more efficient in your work. And for a church, we have spiritual gifts and ministry placement. We have opportunities to serve in our church. We also should have staff development. This is what I'm talking about. You can do it for staff or for your whole congregation if you're a church. And then departmental follow-up after seminars and training. I'm speaking to churches here in particular. We have training, seminar. A lot of information in with very, very little application. And so that's why I've created my Leadership 101 and the other classes that I will be creating with teaching and then discussion. Let's stop and talk about it. How can we apply what we've just learned? And so that should be done after a seminar. After you do a seminar in your church or your organization, let your staff or your volunteers meet together and discuss, so how can we apply that? And then we have one-on-one mentoring. We have small groups. In our church, we have regional care, targeting potential leaders. The regional care leaders are looking for potential. They're caring for the flock. They're caring for our customers, but they're also looking for potential leaders. And then we have a pastoral path, and we have a church planting and church planter training path. And so this is a comprehensive leadership pathway, but it's a leadership culture. It's a way of thinking. But it all starts by knowing our end goal. Leaders in every sphere of society, we work strategically. And so if you're a church, by the way, you're not just raising up leaders for your church. You're raising up leaders for the business realm, for the educational realm, for the governmental realm. General leadership training that I give will work in every sphere of society, but then you can also specialize it. You can bring government people in, and they can tell how to be a positive influence in government, how to be a positive influence in education. And so I want to encourage you, don't just do a seminar from time to time, and don't just do a class from time to time, but create a leadership culture in your church, in your school, in your organization, and in your business, that if you join up with us, we're going to develop you to a higher level of leader that will benefit not only us, but it's going to benefit you in your future as well. So thank you for listening, and the last slide that you're going to see here is going to be a slide that will give you information. This is free. I'm giving this to you for free, but I really would like to recommend that you purchase the Leadership 101 package, and you'll get the PowerPoint slides, you'll get the video, videos. You'll get an ebook called Understanding Your Spiritual Shape, and it will be a benefit to you personally as a leader or a potential growing leader, and it will also be a benefit to your school, organization, church, and business.